If you have an aging parent, live independently as you age, or plan to, this conversation could save you time, money, and a lot of stress. So stay tuned. I'm Sandy Bobal-Zuniga, the founder of Colorado Springs Town Tidings. Be in the know on the go for all things Colorado Springs, delivered right to your inbox. Today, we're spotlighting a local business that helps families navigate one of life's most overwhelming decisions, finding the right senior care. CarePatrol of Colorado Springs and Pueblo provides expert, compassionate guidance for assisted living, memory care, independent living, nursing homes, and in-home care at no cost to the families they serve. Please join me in welcoming Laura Cooley, the local owner of CarePatrol.
Hi there, Sandy. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Laura. It is so great to have you, and I'm so excited for our conversation. So, Laura, before we actually talk about CarePatrol, I'm just wondering, who are you outside of that title? Are you a Colorado native? And what were you like kind of growing up? What did you do before CarePatrol?
Thank you for asking. So consider myself a semi-native. I was born out of state, but I've lived here since I was 8 years old. And I grew up in Arvada, Colorado, outside of Denver. I grew up loving to camp and hike and play outside with my friends, probably like a lot of children of my generation. We spent a lot of time outside getting into trouble. And then professionally, I worked in the corporate world, but during that time and while I was a child up through an adult, I spent a lot of time with seniors. We had my grandmother living with us, and we took care of her for a few years. I was a candy striper. I sang in the church choir at nursing homes, and I've always had a special place in my heart for seniors. And after about 30 years in the corporate world, I decided I wanted to do something that was for me. And I knew I wanted it to be with seniors. And I had honestly looked hard at buying a non-medical home care agency. But what I realized as I started to learn a little bit about it wasn't quite a good fit for me, because I wouldn't be spending time with the seniors. I was going to be spending more time, hiring, training, firing, those kinds of things. So working with the actual employees who'd get to work with the seniors. So that's when I stumbled across placement, which is what CarePatrol does. And guiding families just made sense to me. My father had gone through hospice, and that was a very eye-opening, confusing, stressful situation for me, because we didn't know how to navigate it, where to go, who to ask for help, and it resonated. So that's what brought me here 14 years ago to CarePatrol.
Wow, that's quite the story. So what did you do in the corporate world?
I worked in medical device and pharmaceuticals. I was not in sales. I was in purchasing, logistics, those kinds of things. So I worked in the actual manufacturing side. And I loved it. It gave me a lot of great experience and opportunities. But I was ready to go try to do something for myself.
Right. Okay. I get it. And I also have a lot of experience with seniors. Even I was similar to you in the fact that I always resonated when I was an old soul, I think, when I was a kid. And I always resonated with the grandparent kind of people. Those were my friends more than my peers. My peers were just mean. And grandparents were not
Yeah.
necessarily. And so I always gravitated to them, and I still do. So I have a special place in my heart for seniors. And again, this is another reason why I'm so glad to bring this to my audience. So for you gave us a little background, and was there a personal moment, maybe with your own family, or maybe something you've seen, that first opened your eyes basically to how complex senior care decisions can actually be?
Well, starting with the experience that I had shared about my dad in hospice, but I've had other friends along the way who've experienced things with their own grandparents and parents that it really brought home to me that there's a need for people to have an advocate, someone who can consult and educate them on what the options look like. I think nobody can operate in fear, right? And make good decisions. And fear comes from a lack of information. So, really, what our team does is educate and inform folks so they can make that decision that feels good because they know they have all the details, all the information they need.
I am so with you on that. I totally, absolutely 100% agree that fear comes with lack of information. Although some people do get overloaded and they can't
Sure.
do it. They just want to be guided. They don't want all the information. I'm a person who I need to take in the information and then I can make the decision. If you're just saying, do this, do this, do that, I'm going to ask why. And I'm going to ask
I'm a
you
why person too, totally.
not to annoy the person who's giving us the information, but my brain needs to process and then kind of see because there's a lot of decisions in life, especially for senior care, that you don't want regrets. You do
Right.
the best you can with the information you have, but you want it from somebody who has the right information, not some fly by night kind of person, or they just kind of started and they have a little bit of information but not the whole picture.
Or they
And
get a
so
list from the rehab or the hospital and they don't know how to qualify any of those options. Yeah.
absolutely, so I'm there right with you. So I'm wondering, Laura, why Care Patrol specifically? What made you say yes to owning the Colorado Springs and Pueblo franchise?
So actually, I had bought into another franchise called Assisted Transition, and 9 months after I joined, they were purchased by Care Patrol. And it was actually the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Care Patrol has been around for 30 years. It was founded by a medical social worker who completely understands the challenges of safe and appropriate discharges and making sure you're vetting the partners that you're working with. And so it's been a fantastic relationship for like I said, 14 years now.
Right, that's wonderful. So tell us more about what actually is Care Patrol. What do you do? What services are there? So when somebody's listening to this, they get
Mhm.
it right away. It's like, oh, yep, when I'm in need, this is who I'm going to call.
Well, I'll give you some scenarios. I think that'll help illustrate it best. It
Great.
could be that an adult child comes back home from out of state and notices that maybe their mom or dad is starting to struggle. Things around the house are kind of falling apart. Maybe bills aren't getting paid. Maybe the fridge is empty, or there's some confusion, some cognitive change that they're noticing, and they really think they need an outside person to come in and help them understand what are the options, what can they do to kind of help bridge the gap between the person who's living at home and what their needs are. And oftentimes that is going to be a transition to senior care, but sometimes we're able to make recommendations that include having help come into the home or just arranging maybe some transportation, that kind of thing. So, one thing that I'm always struck by is the financial side of this and how much we need to talk about that and plan for that. And so that's a big part of our discussion as well, because when we start talking about senior living, it isn't inexpensive. And so it's really important that you understand all your options. What ways are there to pay for care? That's another thing we spend a lot of time with our families on, and maybe what programs or opportunities are out there to help pay for care as well. So another scenario is, and this is honest, unfortunately, a lot of what we do is acute crisis. So we receive a lot of referrals from the hospitals or the inpatient rehab facilities here in town, or the primary care physicians' offices, and maybe it's gone beyond. We need to know what it's going to look like when the time comes to the time has passed. We've got to make a decision now. And we can shine in those situations because we can move very fast in helping families get up to speed as quick as possible so that they can make quick and informed decisions. But ideally, having time to educate so that we can have preparation in place ahead of time would be would be our ideal situation.
Mhm. And I know from personal experience, there's a few things. I've had elderly neighbors. I've got one in her 90s that I just adore, my friend. And I know going into, and she lives independently. So
Mhm.
going into different surgeries and then rehab and all of that,
Yeah.
whoever her doctor is, and then whatever the hospital, all they do is say, okay, you need to go to rehab, and they just give you a list. They didn't give us anybody to help with resources or anything. So are you saying that some of the hospitals now
Oh,
might bring you,
yes. Hmm.
because that's
Yes.
something that didn't
I was at the
happen.
hospital yesterday. Yeah. My team's there right now. So yeah, we definitely, we've made inroads. I think the biggest challenge is when I describe to people that I'm a placement agency, I oftentimes get a blank look
Yes.
because we don't change tires, we don't make donuts. People don't know we even exist out there. So our job is to, talk to great people like you and try to get the word out so that if you have a friend, a neighbor, or another member of your church that you see struggling or needing some assistance and getting some questions answered, connecting us so that we can answer questions and help bridge that gap of knowledge and help people really figure out what they're going to do, I think, whether that be now or a plan B for the future.
How far in advance should they contact you if they're getting older and maybe they don't have quite the ability that they had, but yet they're still independent, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe not quite as much. And I know, like, another personal example for me is my dad is older and he is now selling our childhood home, my childhood home that I've the only one I've ever known. So I've got mixed feelings about that. But he's going to go into a condo.
Uh-huh.
I know nothing about it, but I'm like, hey, you do what you need to do. And so he's going because the house, even though he can live independently in it, they're still mowing the lawn and when the furnace breaks and shoveling snow and all kinds of things. He doesn't want to do that anymore. He wants everything else kind of
Mm-hmm.
handled. So for him, again, he's still independent. He doesn't need an assisted living just yet. And this is his choice. So how far in advance should they contact you? And what does that mean or look like when they do?
Well, we find that the adult children or even a neighbor are contacting us ahead of the senior themselves. And I think it's because sometimes people are afraid if they talk about a potential that could happen, that's going to manifest it somehow. And it really doesn't. Talking about it ahead of time doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it gives you peace of mind because then you know what to expect in terms of what various options look like, what they cost. I think a lot of times we work with people typically 75 to 100 years old, and a lot of them remember the nursing homes of 40, 50 years ago. That's the
Yeah,
sights, sounds, and smells of a nursing home, right? And it's a terrifying proposition. And I think that's what creates a lot of that reluctance to reach out. But today's assisted living or independent living is not the nursing homes of 40, 50 years ago. I mean, it's vital. There's lots of activities. There's access to transportation, great food. They don't want people to leave because of food. So you've got chefs working at these communities, not, you know, sludge
right,
slingers, so to
right.
speak. So,
You're
yeah,
not
there's a
getting
lot
the
of
gruel out
great
there.
aspects of it. Yeah. And taking over things like housekeeping. Yeah. So, there's a lot of great benefit to it. So, I'd say as soon as somebody's curious and thinking they're seeing some changes or seeing some changes in their neighbor or their loved one, that's the time.
Right.
Reach out.
And do you have other resources other than a placement, them
Oh,
leaving their
yes.
home and stuff? So, and like you said, as far as manifesting, you're not manifesting them going into an assisted living or anything, which, as you said, is not always a bad thing uh,
Yeah.
nowadays. And but what if they want to stay independent? So it might be, hey, they're struggling, and what resources are there in general where maybe they don't have to go into one, be placed somewhere,
Mhm.
not them being placed. That means like that has a
It's
connotation
outside of
of,
their control. Yeah.
yeah, you're forced,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But where you want to go, wherever, whatever word you want to use is basically, here's your options. Now you choose. It's a
Mhm.
placement because they have to have space for you.
Well, so when we meet our families, oftentimes we're talking about placement, especially if they're in a rehab facility. They're there inpatient rehab to get stronger and in an attempt to get back to prior level of function, right? And so oftentimes we'll have someone respond so well to therapy that they are able to go back home, but they're going to need a little extra support, and that can take many forms. We have hundreds of resources for things like non-medical home care. If somebody is going to get back home and think maybe a caregiver coming in a few days a week to help them would be good. We have people that can help with either making food or delivering food, transportation options, dog walkers, the gamut. So yeah, I was just trying to give you a cross section
Yeah,
of some of the resources. Yeah, we're trying to find solutions because the placement proposition is one aspect of someone's life, right? There's so many other things. There's getting to bridge or the church, on Sunday and still getting it to go to service, or getting to your hair appointment. I mean, there's so many things that are important beyond just care, right?
right.
So,
And
yeah.
if they're not in the assisted living who has the transportation, now you're looking for senior ride service and all that, which
Mhm.
they have there. But
Yep,
it sounds like you've got all of that kind of in one place that you can
we
give them the
do.
resources. And do you help, maybe not coordinate the actual ride itself, maybe do, but do you help basically, what are your needs? And let me go ahead and create a short list for you. This way you're not, just calling randomly and all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
because the different organizations. Do you kind of try and match up what the needs are from somebody who comes up to, here's a short list. Let me make it easy for you.
Yeah, we do that, and historically, that's a one-time meeting or conversation, but it's actually a great segue into an exciting thing that I want to share with you. And that is our new care coordination model, which is we're going to, here in the next few weeks, launch that new service line where we're going to be providing that care coordination on an ongoing relationship basis. And so that will be helping coordinate appointments, accompanying to appointments, identifying other needs in the home. I've got someone who can do a home safety evaluation and look at opportunities for safety improvements like durable medical equipment. Maybe it's ramps, maybe it's grab bars, maybe it's widening a doorway to accommodate a walker. So it'll be a much more comprehensive program, and it'll also be an ongoing relationship. And then for the adult children involved who have concerns, we'll be providing reports to them as well along the way. Just, hey, we stopped by, this is what's going on, just to give them peace of mind, because we're such a mobile society nowadays. We have so many families we encounter that mom lives here, dad lives here, but the kids are out of state. And so they're
Right.
flying back and forth trying to plug holes for that, 3-4 day stay, not realizing, it's deteriorating in between, and then they bring it back up and then it's going back down. And so trying to give an even consistent support to seniors who want to remain at home, that aging in place, moniker that we all hear nowadays.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes. Wow, that's great, especially for the kids that aren't in the state or aren't close enough to drive. I know, my dad is on the East Coast, so I know
Hmm.
nothing what's going on, and he's a male, so he really doesn't open up and share a
Yeah.
whole bunch. I get He'll call me or I'll call him and we'll have a conversation, and it's like, what's going on? And the back and forth. Oh, same old stuff. And then like at the very end, which he accuses me of doing, he'll say something, oh, and by the way, it's like we just had 30 minutes and now you're telling me in the last something that is more emotional, like selling the house or something, whatever. And I'm just
Yeah, saving that for last.
exactly what in like 2 minutes. And I'm like, there's not even time to discuss. So being not being there, if he needed to bring somebody in or had something like Care Patrol
Mhm.
there, then getting a report kind of because you're the boots on the ground type of thing,
Right.
uh, that would be very, very helpful. And then I would know if there's anything that he needs or is going on without having to guess or maybe find out too late.
Right. Just it's all about peace of mind.
Yeah. Definitely. And so what's the difference between that and like caregivers from organizations that bring them in? I know with
Yeah.
my mom who has since passed, but she was bedridden and he had caregivers from
Hmm.
a company come in and stuff. So what just help us out because most people are familiar with that segment. So help
Right.
us out
Right.
what the bridge is between Care Patrol's new services coming and something like that.
Yeah. So what you're describing typically is non-medical home care. And those are caregivers that are coming in and assisting with activities of daily living. That could be dressing, bathing, hygiene. Maybe they're providing some companionship. Maybe they're taking them on a rides, taking them on giving them rides places, those kinds of things. And that's a very valuable service, which we connect our families with all the time. But what they're not doing is coordinating doctor's visits or accompanying to doctor's visits and reporting back or helping a senior set up a medical portal, so they can order their prescriptions. So maybe taking them to a hair appointment, checking their fridge, coordinating home safety, as I mentioned. So we're taking care of what I would say the division is home care, non-medical home care helps with the activities of daily living. Care coordination, where our focus will be those social determinants of health. And those are those less non-medical things that people need to be able to handle to survive successfully in their home. If anyone goes to the doctor nowadays, they are being asked questions that have to do with social determinants of health, and they probably don't even realize it. And I'll give you some examples. Do you have access to food? Have you worried about having a safe place to live in the last 30 days? Have you thought about harming yourself? Those are all social determinant of health type questions. And so our focus is there. It's the environment. It's making sure they have access to nutritious food. They're hydrated. Their house is in order. We won't be providing that care, but we'll be identifying what those needs are and coordinating bringing those resources in. So hopefully that illustrates, to you and your audience, to their mind, as to what we're trying to accomplish here. And it'll evolve over time. We have
Yeah.
14 years of experience understanding what those gaps in accessing care are. And so over time we'll evolve, I'm sure, and find new ways that we can help support seniors that we hadn't even anticipated.
Right. So it seems like they have the medical, non-medical care kind of coming
Mm-hmm.
in, and they have the insurance company and the doctors, which I know my dad had to coordinate all of that, and it was too much because he was making sure my mom was taken care of, but things happen. She
Mm-hmm.
needed the van to for the wheelchair and all that kind of thing. And then they didn't come, and then they didn't have to miss the doctor's appointment, and it was just a big mess. So it sounds
Yes.
like Care Patrol with the services could come in and help bridge that gap between it so he didn't get all as stressed as he was trying to do that. Or maybe somebody doesn't, I mean, they're not bedridden, but maybe they don't have all of that. And now you have somebody in there bridging the gap,
Mm-hmm.
taking that because as you know, just trying to be healthy yourself, when you add all of those things or an illness comes
Mm-hmm.
in, you add all that stress on top, you don't have the ability to heal yourself or heal or have the time to because you're just stressed at all this other stuff.
It's a yeah, distraction. A perfect example, my in-laws right now have a doctor's appointment 4 out of 5 days a week between the two of them. And there's some health issues going on that are bringing that on, but I can tell you, nutrition is sliding, and taking care of things at home isn't getting done to satisfaction. It's just so much to try to coordinate all that. And so we're just trying to help bring a person in. It's a relationship, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I know that friendships are going to be developed, and it takes time to develop trust, and that's really what our goal is going to be, is developing trust with someone and helping support them in their aging journey, and find ways to keep them successful in whatever environment they want to live in,
Right.
as
And
long as
it's
it's
not
safe.
exactly. And it's not
Yeah.
just companionship. It is more than just that. They can become
Hmm.
companions to who they're helping, but
Hmm.
it's not just, oh, I'm listening and I'm here. It's going another level again to bridge the gap between the chaos of life and
Hmm.
you living as healthy and independent as possible as you
Hmm.
go. So I have another question. So I've gotten readers that often email me or call me and they have issues. Well, I have resources, but I am not that kind of resource. It's like, who do I
Yeah.
know? And now I'm going to know Laura, CarePatrol
Yeah.
will help me.
Great.
But here is a scenario. So I have had a few readers ask me like they they want it on the down low, which is fine, but say something like they're in decent physical health, but say they've got something like macular degeneration or something, and now their eyesight is going down, so they can't drive anymore. And
Right.
now it's hard for them to read their prescription bottles or whatever it is, or even things, instructions and things like that. I have not had a resource. What I would love to do is give them a resource that can come in and evaluate their situation and what they
Hmm.
can and can't do. And I know there are things out there for low eyesight that they can implement in their homes and still stay
Right.
independent. But I haven't been able to find that and even bring that to them. Is that something Care Patrol can help bridge and find them or maybe come in and
Well,
help?
right, right. So probably not doing that directly, but we know
Right.
the resources that can help. And I think, just off the top of my head, the Independence Center here in town has a low vision program where they help provide education on how to set your home up safely, uh, access to adaptive equipment that will help, services. So I would say for that particular scenario, the Independent Center and the Low Vision Center is a fantastic resource for that.
Great. Would they have somebody to come in and actually set some things up with them or
That so
um
that's the care coordination piece. So I think that's where we would bridge that gap. So
great.
there's organizations out there that have developed the tools. Now it's a matter of implementation, right, and supporting those folks. By
Yep. 'Cause
making it a reality, applying it in their home. Yeah.
yeah. That is again a scenario that I've had multiple times and I feel
Okay.
bad for them because I'm like, I don't know what, I knew the Independent Resource Center, but I haven't been able to dig down deep enough. But again, that is
Mhm.
not my specialty. So I am
Right.
so glad you guys are here. 'Cause now I can say, listen, not my specialty, but I know of somebody.
Right.
So then who are your um the clients that you see most? What are their ailments or issues, or is there a population in general that you work with more than others?
Well, I would say two main categories of aging adults, and that's adults who have experienced a decline in physical capability or they've experienced a decline in cognitive capability. That would be the two most direct paths. So somebody who isn't physically able to care for themselves in the home, maybe because they can't transfer, they can't ambulate, they need help with that. Um, or somebody who's got cognitive decline and start to need extra support, maybe some oversight, and helping families navigate how that works. Because I will tell you, a common misconception with families is that if they have a power of attorney, they can make decisions for their loved ones automatically, and there is a threshold for that. So it's really important to understand that, and not. I think sometimes I've had a daughter actually say, "Well, mom won't is refusing assisted living, so I'm going to make her do it because I have power of attorney." And I say, hold on, let's pump the brakes. For one thing, that's not good for your relationship. And for two, that's likely not true. Powers of attorney aren't typically, something you can invoke at will just because you have an opinion about your parent. So yeah,
Right.
just helping talk them through. I always tell my families, it's easier to pull a rope than push a rope. And if you're trying to force someone to make a decision that really impacts them primarily, that's not a good approach. Let's not force the situation. Let's educate and work together to find a agreeable solution for everybody that makes the adult child feel comfortable and makes the senior feel like they still have that self-determination and independence. Because I think a lot of seniors fear, if they open up and share that they're struggling, that exposing that vulnerability is going to also expose them to losing their independence. And we just don't want that.
Right, exactly. And that's a great point with the power of attorney. As you said, there's a threshold. So having it set up is always a good idea. And
Absolutely.
and okay, just in case, because we just never know what's happening. And I think in our society, which I don't understand, when when we were growing up, we didn't have, I don't think, unless you know differently, had different experiences, but I didn't know what dementia was. We didn't have it uh, so prevalent around. There had to be something. I still have a theory, but there's something in our lifetime that was introduced into the environment, into our nutrition, into, something that had is now after effects
Mm-hmm.
affecting the brain, which is causing more dementia because I'm seeing it way more than I ever had. And I was pretty astute when I was growing up. And again, I was always with the elderly community. And,
Mm-hmm.
they may not have been sharp, but they certainly weren't going into what I call is on the crazy train. So and I had Ozzy's song in my head. My experiences, I had a loved one who had Alzheimer's, but I didn't know it. And I was told dementia, didn't know how bad it was, but was dropped in my lap. I had no idea what dementia was. I handled other things in my family like depression, anxiety. Great. I'm all over that. You come in with dementia, I'm like, what is this? And then it was way more than just forgetting a few things. And so
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn for 14 months. I was the primary caregiver, not power of attorney or anything, but the primary caregiver. So I had to learn and navigate how to be a caregiver for somebody who had Alzheimer's, which was quite the experience. I
It
actually
can
did
be.
fairly well, but at any point we were on the crazy train, and it's just like, okay, stop everything and go ahead and handle this. And I know you do. Uh, you work with people and you guys do videos through your YouTube channel
Uh-huh.
on little tips and stuff, which I love. And a lot of those I was doing. So I'm just like, I know how to do that. Tipa Snow, I know all about her
Yeah.
and other people. So I love that you're a local resource that is helping with that too. But with that, the whole power of attorney, the family had that. And that was kind of the transition where she was being brought to me and it was starting to go into the power of attorney because she was unable to make those decisions, but she was still sharp enough at times to say, where's my
Mhm.
money? You know, done all this other stuff and look at bank statements, whatever. So you're right. It's the elderly or the person who's getting older. That doesn't mean if they have it that it's turned on and they lose their independence. There is that bridge, and it has to be proven, I believe, that they are no longer and has to be evaluated and approved, I
Mhm.
think, by like a
Mhm.
neurologist, right?
Yeah, that among other channels. It depends
Yeah.
on the circumstance. I think what's important is have the power of attorney in place, as you mentioned, but most importantly, understand it when it's invoked, when it isn't, what your responsibilities are as a power of attorney. I've met a lot of families uh, who've said, wow, I had no idea when I signed up for this what this would entail. So it's important that you understand that someday when that does need to be invoked, there's a lot of responsibility associated with it. And you'll do yourself a big favor by understanding that and making sure when you're setting those things up, you know what they are. And talking about dementia and that it's expanding as far as prevalence, we're living a lot longer. I think there are some environmental factors, whether that be drug or diet, medications when I say drugs, but also there's other forms of dementia, such as alcohol-induced dementia, um, stroke-induced, so vascular dementia. And strokes can be hereditary. They can be brought on, by things like lifestyle choice and diet. So I think there's no one answer to that. We're living longer, we're seeing more complex situations, and we started that YouTube channel that you mentioned just so that we can provide little tidbits of tips for people to try in order to get through the day when you're caring with someone who has dementia, because I am a member of a lot of different caregiver support groups on Facebook, and I'm looking at those every day because for one thing, if there's something I think I can help give insider advice on, I do that. But also I like to look at the trends. What are caregivers today? What are their biggest challenges they're facing on a daily basis? And so right before we're going to start filming, which we're going to start again next week, doing 6 or 7 more of our caregiver quick tips, we looked at what's the challenge lately? What are caregivers thirsty for as far as information, tips, tricks, that kind of thing? Because being a caregiver of someone with dementia can be very exhausting, can be very frustrating. And if we can just find one little trick to make that day go a little bit smoother for both the senior and the person who's caring for them, that's all we're looking for. That will give us wings.
Yes, if we can get the crazy train to kind of go into the station for just a few minutes, get a little snack or something before we go
Yeah.
back on, that'd be awesome. So yeah, I definitely know about that. Yeah, so there's just so much going on with the senior community. And here in Colorado Springs and
Mhm.
Pueblo, we have a vibrant senior community. We have people who are active, who
Mhm.
are like you said, living longer and just enjoying life. And then something, it just happens. Our bodies kind of deteriorate a little bit, although I am not conforming to that. I'm not, when somebody says, "Oh, you're just aging," or something, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. But it does happen. So there are things. So even if you're vibrant, it's still good to contact you and kind of see what's happening. Uh, Things just, like our eyesight, like I said before, the hearing,
Mhm.
other senses just kind of go a little bit, they're not as sharp as they used to be, and those kind of affect our everyday life. It could be something as simple or as small as that, let's get in front of it. Let's find
Mhm.
out what resources you have, because there it might be something you can't undo or make better. But all right, so then how do you live with it as you age the way you want to? And then if it comes to a point where you need to go to someplace else because where you're currently living just is not supporting what you need, but you still want a good quality of life and everything, they can
Always.
care patrol.
Right, right. And I think that if you're willing to just accept a little bit of help in when you need it, it prevents the exact thing you're fearful of. So people who hold on fiercely to living at home, maybe they're not quite safe as they used to be. Things they're not thriving, but they're holding on to that house. There's memories associated with it. There's things that are tied to people, memories, and emotions in it. But if you just invite a little bit of help, it's preventive, right? Right now, it sets you up for the future. So remembering to be preventive in your living as much as you are in your healthcare. I think that's how I would summarize that. So
That's great. And you do wind up getting people, I believe, more when they are in crisis.
often,
And
mm,
yeah.
yeah.
So you have to be reactive just because that's the nature of the situation. Would you like more people to be proactive?
Absolutely. And I think also this care coordination is what's going to help keep them safe at home longer. So none of us wakes up in the morning and says, I think I want to leave my home of 40 years and go to a nursing home today. I've not met a single soul, and I've met thousands of people over these 14 years. So, yeah, just invite a little bit of support and help in now, and take a chance, be vulnerable, share what you're struggling with early so that a solution can be found, whether that's with your primary care physician or maybe your children, your spouse, whoever's in your circle, and
Right.
reach out. Yeah.
Yeah. And if that feels too vulnerable, again, like we talked about, they're fearful if it's somebody in their circle, their close
Hmm.
circle, family or something, there might be judgment and there might be action taken that is just not warranted yet. So there's always that possibility that they can call you at care.
Absolutely.
And now it's an outsider looking in that has compassion and experience and knows what empathy, knows what they're going through, that can take it in and process it and then give them some options where they don't feel judged or don't feel like
Right.
there's an action going to be taken against them because they were vulnerable.
That is the ideal outcome. That's our ideal outcome. We want to educate, advocate, and consult for people and let them decide what's best for them.
Educate, advocate, and consult. I love that.
Yeah.
And we all need it for sure. So for families here in the Pikes Peak region, especially those like we talked about walking through Alzheimer's like I did, what do you
Yeah.
wish they knew before they actually hit that crisis point?
That there are resources to reach out to. And I think I want them to know, I want our community to know there's so many fantastic resources in town. We are a very senior friendly community. You have the senior center, you have the independence center, you have the UCCS Lane Center, you have the Pikes Peak area agency on aging. I mean, there's so many resources out there. You just have to ask. Silver Key. I mean, there's just an abundance of resources. And you may have to make 2 or 3 calls to get to the right person, but
Right,
that's okay. Take a little time and be curious. Start
right,
looking into so you're ready for those. It doesn't asking about that doesn't mean that change is going to happen. I just want to continue to iterate that because it just feels like seniors are afraid to even ask. And I get it. Aging is tough. I'm in the aging process too. I have to wear readers and my joints aren't what they used to be. I can't hike as far as I used to. It can be about loss, right? Loss of a
right.
spouse, loss of the last time you're going to have a pet, own a car, own your home. But it can also be about moments of joy if you're curious and you reach out and look for that.
Right. Our lives aren't linear. And
Mhm.
when we're open, even when things change, when we're open, we can possibly see a different chapter, a different side within our abilities, but still have joy and meaning as those things kind of shift. It's not totally a loss. It will be a loss of some things, but then what does life have for us going forward in our abilities?
I was a great example is I was at a community waiting to meet a family to go on a tour. Mom was going to need to move to assisted living. And I sat down on the couch and started talking to some of the residents. And I asked a lady that was there how she liked living there. And you know what she told me is, it's not my home. I miss my home, but I'm going to make the best of it here. And now I can play bridge again and hang out with these idiots, she said, and pointed to the other ladies sitting in the living room, and they all laughed. So it just really struck me. It is, some of this is about attitude. It's never going to be perfect, but it
Right.
is what you make of it. And you're the only captain of that ship, right? So be, like you said, be open to it, educate yourself.
Right. And we know there's a whole financial aspect that scares people too.
Sure.
And we can't, obviously, we can't um, cure it on this conversation or anything, but that is what what are the options out there? What are the costs at this point? And what are the things that can be either put in place or what can you do to possibly be able to afford it as the years go by, or maybe other options because some of them are way out of reach, and
Hmm.
and and what you need to do with that. I know finances and financial is a huge stressor for people. I hear it all the time, even with housing and senior housing and other things. It's like these, they're on their social security income, and the seniors that we have now, they are still on social security. When we actually hit that, who knows if they'll be, or
Right.
not. So who even knows about the financial in our future? But again, right now, that is something I know my readers and my audience is struggling with. And there may not be a clean cut answer, but it's a conversation that definitely needs to be happening.
It's so true. I think a lot of people misunderstand Medicaid, for instance, because Medicaid is a program that can pay for long term care in certain circumstances where Medicare is not. Medicare is health insurance,
Right.
right? So, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, that is something we spend a lot of time on because when that moment unfortunately catches you by surprise sometimes, you've got to be ready to move quickly and understand what your options are and what choices you make and what outcomes those produce. I think that's the most important thing.
Right.
So, for instance, I have families that say, I'm in a race to get on Medicaid. We're going to spend all mom's money as fast as we can to get her on Medicaid. They don't understand they may be doing some things that harm the potential for them to be eligible for Medicaid
Correct.
later.
Yeah.
So let's plan this. It's not just be in a race to the bottom of the barrel. So we always provide education on the financial impact and implications of long-term care and
Right.
planning for it for the future.
Yeah. I know it always breaks my heart when I have people, and maybe not the exact words, but basically the sentiment of I can't afford it. Kind of that they feel like that old Scrooge saying, oh, they're sick, and, let them die and decrease the surplus population. When somebody feels that way, I don't have enough money to get the treatment I need or live or whatever, and I should just die. That breaks my heart. It's
What
like,
a sense of um, eh, what a sense of just sadness that produces. I think that defeatist feeling, it can be really hard to get answers to. A lot of times we'll have families call and say, I called human services and I do not understand. I still
Right.
don't understand. So a lot of times people need to hear it more than once so they can understand it. We've created a lot of written documentation that they can hold in hand too, and understand that kind of thing better, because that's
Right.
a sense of helplessness. And really, our goal is to provide the opposite, which I consider empowerment through education.
Right.
Yeah,
Definitely. And sometimes just getting the information, it could be the same information, getting it from two different people. One actually knows how to deliver it in a way that
sure.
makes sense. The other one doesn't. So maybe with Care Patrol, when you have the bridge, maybe that's one of the possibilities. Oh, I've got somebody who knows how to speak to me that I can understand, and we can get things done.
Well, and another thing that happens is you don't know the questions to ask.
Yeah.
So if you knew the specific questions to ask, then you would get the answer, probably same answer from everyone. But for instance, Medicaid has a lot of, it's an a la carte program, right? Medicaid has programs for infants and families all the way up through seniors. And for instance, Medicaid offers a supplement, as a dual plan, a secondary to your Medicare plan. That's a health insurance proposition, completely different set of qualifications. Whereas long term care Medicaid has different qualifications. And so you might ask about Medicaid and someone thinks you're asking about health insurance when you're really asking about long term care.
Right. Well, great. Is there anything that we may not have covered that you really want my audience to know about?
I feel like we did. I think, just to summarize, what our services have been for the last 14 years, the fact that we are a trusted resource. I'm very proud and excited to say we have over 160 five-star reviews on Google. And those reviews are from our families that we've legitimately worked with. And I would love for your audience to go there first and read about the experiences that our families have had, because my team is amazing, absolutely amazing, incredible, um, full of heart, empathetic group of people, but also very professional. And we want to make sure that we're guiding people with the correct information at the correct speed. So I think that's number one. And then number two, as I mentioned, I'm so excited for this care coordination model. We've already got queued up a number of families ready to go. And when we just have a few more things to complete. But it's just another way that we can give back to our community and keep seniors safe where they want to be.
Great. And what's the best way for them to contact you?
You can call our office, that number now,
Yes, please.
719-257-3001. And you'll get our main office and you can schedule an appointment with one of our advocates, or we'll provide you the resources right on that call.
Great. And what does it look like? Or they can go to the website, and I'll give that in a moment. What does it look like when they first contact you? What is their experience? And just so somebody has an idea.
So you call the office and you'll have a few initial screening questions so we can determine what it is exactly you need. And then based on that, we'll provide resources at that moment, or we'll transition you onto one of my care advocates who can start the process. If we need to be looking at placement or that kind of thing, we'll make sure and set an appointment and a consultation with the family for that. And then we'll take it from there. If we need to set up visits to communities so they can see what they're like, we do that. If we need to refer you to, maybe we think home care can cover what challenges you're having, we'll give you that, or any of the other resources you need.
Perfect. Great. Well, Laura, thank you for the work you're doing for our families here in Colorado Springs and Pueblo, and for sharing your heart behind it today. Conversations like this matter because when we understand the people behind the business, we truly see the impact that you're making in our community. So
Thank you
thank you.
so much for having me, Sandy. It was a real pleasure.
Yeah. And so now, if you're listening and thinking this could help your family and would like to connect with Laura and Care Patrol, visit carepatrol.com/Colorado Springs Pueblo, and then it'll go right to her page. And be sure to follow them on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube under CarePatrol of Colorado Springs and Pueblo. And I will have those linked in the article. And also give them a call, 719-257-3001. And make sure you never miss the inside stories and real conversations with the local business owners shaping Colorado Springs. Subscribe to Colorado Springs Town Tidings at cos.towntidings.com. I believe the heartbeat of our city is found in the people who serve it every day, and I'm honored to help share their stories. I'm Sandy Bobal-Zuniga, celebrating our city one business at a time, and I'll see you next week.